Hello Neighbor is a game that is actually pretty old. It has been out since 2017 and it has 3 acts, 1 finale, and several spin-offs, and even an animated series. But over the years, it has kind of faded away a little bit and has become a bit dead. But recently, Hello Neighbor made a new update introducing Fredbear from FNAF as the neighbor, making him extremely fast. And this bear is from those nights at Fredbear's, who's known to be extremely fast. So in this video, I am going to tell you the entire timeline of Hello Neighbor from Acts 1 to 4, tell what's new, and talk about if the game could be revived. So, let's head to the doctor's office and put Hello Neighbor on life support. Hello theorists, and welcome back to Investigative Game Speculation, where today we discuss the history, lore, and new parts and theories of Hello Neighbor. This game, having been a long-running horror game in the franchise, is something that is very popular but also frequently can go on and off in the top gaming area. But for now, let's bring it to the top and give it a discussion. The game originally started in 2017 as a horror action puzzle game following the tragic story of the Peterson family, involving a family. It all started back in the day with the Peterson family, where we have Theodore Peterson as the neighbor who is the father of the family alongside the unnamed mother. Things start out well, and their children Aaron and Maya play outside together frequently, and the family seems relatively normal, happy, and benevolent. Mr. Peterson even has a job as an amusement designer. One day, Aaron and Maya are outside, home alone, as their parents are going to the store when the mother is critically injured in a fatal car crash, leaving only Theodore alive. Theodore goes home alone, and his children soon have to face the fact that they are going to have to live without a mother. All of them face trauma, and the family starts to tear apart as a result, but Aaron especially seems to not take it very well as he becomes enraged, traumatized, sad, and angry, and unfortunately, that caused him to take it out on the rest of his family, which would eventually cause the accidental death of his sister Maya as they are playing a game on the roof when suddenly Aaron accidentally pushes her off in a moment of anger and grief, resulting from the death of his mother. For specifics, they were playing a game and Maya won, and that enraged Aaron, but it was all due to the already pent-up trauma and anger he had as a result of his mother's death, rather than merely his sister winning the game. If it were just because of that, Aaron would be viewed very differently. Anyways, continuing with the story, Mr. Peterson is devastated by the loss of another member of his family, and he is seen burying his daughter in his backyard as a result. But, unfortunately, it would turn out that Theodore Peterson would go to misguided and inhumane methods as a result to try to protect his last remaining child. He eventually locked his last child, Aaron, in the basement out of overprotectiveness and grief, as he is terrified of losing his final son, causing him to go to violent, twisted, and inhumane, and deeply misguided action to protect his child, eventually imprisoning his son. But things wouldn't always be the same, as one day a young boy who is playing with his beach ball drops his beach ball down the street and it rolls down. His name is Nicky Roth. As he goes to pick it up, he hears a terrified scream and looks and sees his new neighbor's house. He looks inside his window to see his neighbor coming from the basement door where he heard the scream. That is when the neighbor sees him and runs at him through the window, desperate to be sure that no one discovers his secrets. Nicky Roth runs for his life and, expecting to be caught, actually gets away, as the neighbor does not want to cross the boundary between his house and the street. #LuckyNicky. It would then all start again when Nicky decides to continue exploring the house, determined to uncover the hidden secrets that his neighbor, Mr. Peterson, is hiding. He keeps looking around the house using tools, savviness, and wit to uncover doors, locks, keys, and successfully avoids the neighbor. Eventually, he is able to get the red key and break into the basement when he goes looking around. He has to have a flashlight as the basement is extremely dark, making vision hard. He looks around and sees mannequins in the basement for some reason, and has to constantly look around to flip switches and get through doors. But he wouldn't stay hidden for long, as eventually the neighbor hears him and catches him up and chases him through a zigzaggy hallway. Nicky tries to run as far as he can, but it is no use, as he ends up with a door with multiple locks, and it is caught by the neighbor. The next act, Act 2, would feature Nicky waking up in the neighbor's basement, frazzled and shaken, and he would realize the neighbor is deliberately trapping him there to keep him from spreading information or escaping the house. Nicky would have to go around the house, and it looks like Nicky is getting employed because he has surely gotten his job as a plumber. He goes around and has to deal with pipes and navigate Mr. Peterson's high security to escape. After going through rooms, keys, and pipes, Nicky is finally able to escape by jumping onto the trampoline and literally gliding over the fence. The neighbor chases him and almost catches up to him, but then reconsiders as he hears a sound in his house implying that his son Aaron could be escaping, so he makes the hard choice to let Nicky go, his desperation over his son far outweighing Nicky. But it is clear that by the neighbor's final dead look at Nicky, that breaking into his house and getting away with it will not nearly be as easy as it was Following before. This loose end, we have Hello Neighbor Act 3, where once again we have Nicky Roth, except he has grown up, become a man, maybe grow a little beard, and he is in his own childhood home in Raven Brooks. His home is dilapidated, showcasing the town's decay and Nicky's past trauma. Nicky has depression in his new home, with his trauma near Mr. Peterson's house never having been fully resolved. Because of this, he eventually decides that he has to confront his own trauma, and because of that, he moves and comes back to the neighbor's house once again. He arrives, and the neighbor's house looks just as before, colorful, big, secretive, except this time it is only bigger and much more locked down with security and increasingly complex puzzles. Nicky has to face more doors, more locks, a train track, windows, levers, switches, robots, rooftops, wires, and everything in between, plus Mr. Peterson himself. He goes around going through multiple doors and sees the house of Mr. Peterson is becoming more and more secretive, even more so than before. Eventually, Nicky is able to break into the basement, where he goes on a little detour. This part of the story clearly mirrors Hello Neighbor Act 2, where he starts out in the house, but the basement doors are locked. But in this ending, he directly confronts Mr. Peterson and his trauma, and this time when he zigzags through the hallway, there are no locked doors, representing the confrontation Nicky did with his trauma. But then, when he opens the basement door, he sees a surreal, distorted, and rundown version of his own house, representing the entire thing being only a dream or hallucination of his past trauma. This would directly lead to the finale, which is Act 4, which gives us a definite end to Nicky's story. The final act of Hello Neighbor Chapter 1 once again is played by Nicky Roth, where he finds himself in his own surreal, dreamlike past house in Raven Brooks. He then sees a child version of himself as Nicky Roth, scared and running from the thing, which represents the neighbor's guilt and trauma and tragic past. The kid runs away, and the older version we play as protects the younger version, confronting the thing. Mr. Peterson is then the giant neighbor, and he breaks open the house, giving a gateway for Nicky to escape, and we see the other land outside. Since the giant neighbor represents Nicky's past trauma, throwing toys at him is how he defeats him. Nicky makes his way throughout the land, having to throw boxes at levers to get through and having a whole unique set of ways to escape. He eventually makes his way to a green door where he sees the neighbor and the thing. He opens the door only for him to escape and wake up in his own house, where he goes and starts unpacking boxes to move into his new house. And this is the definite end to Nicky's story, showcasing him confronting his own trauma, moving on past the neighbor, and starting a new chapter in his life where he has a positive ending. And recently, they added a Fredbear update to this game, replacing the neighbor with an extremely fast, outrunnable. Is outrunnable even a word? I guess I made it up. But yeah, he is super fast and hard to avoid. Way harder than the neighbor, but despite Nicky's story being over, Mr. Peterson's story is far from over, because all of it would start again in Hello Neighbor Chapter 2. Hello Neighbor Chapter 2, formerly known as Hello Guest, takes place directly after Hello Neighbor Act 3, where the police come to Mr. Peterson's house and he is currently a fugitive. We play as Quentin, who is an investigative journalist who's determined to find the missing children Mr. Peterson kidnapped and is investigating a larger world of the narrative of Mr. Peterson. So, let me give you a full timeline of Hello Neighbor 2, and let's get started. It all starts back in the town of Raven Brooks, where an investigative journalist named Quentin comes driving up to the town, holding a journal and writing about the cases he's going to investigate. For a quick power boost, he takes a sip from a coffee cup and then appears in front of Mr. Peterson's house, where he goes to investigate in case anything suspicious is going on. He hears the sound of struggling and turns to see none other than Mr. Peterson to drag Aaron back into the house towards the basement. Quentin then snaps some photos on his camera for evidence of the crime, and Mr. Peterson disappears in the house, only to menacingly walk towards Quentin in his car carrying a shovel. Quentin frantically starts his car back up to escape, but not before Mr. Peterson is able to smash the window to his car. He still escapes and is on the road, but suddenly a figure appears who is the guest, which startles Quentin and forces him to divert his car into the left and crash into the bar. He would then wake up inside the barn, only to step outside and be knocked out by Mr. Peterson, who hit him in the head with a shovel and then disappeared, stealing his camera to prevent Quentin from capturing any more evidence in the future. Quentin would find himself waking up inside the office of Raven Brooks and looking in the mirror to see his head bandaged. He would look on the cameras to find that the police had arrived at Mr. Peterson's Peterson's house, turned it into a crime scene, and no one was allowed to enter inside. It is guarded by the head cop, Keith Nielsen, who is guarding the area and will chase down anyone who comes nearby. But that doesn't stop Quentin. He easily breaks into the basement and eventually discovers a red key that leads into the basement. He would eventually leave the area only to be hit by a paper airplane that was a cry for help from Aaron, Mr. Peterson's son, who had been kidnapped. Aaron was urging Quentin to come to the museum because that is now where Mr. Peterson was hiding. Quentin arrives at the museum to see that it has been securely locked down and will need to be unlocked or broken if he ever wants to enter inside. He also sees a shovel sitting in the dirt and picks it up only to get dizzy and get knocked out. Wow. Guess Quentin is a sensitive dude. Just this sheer memory of getting knocked out with a shovel by touching one makes him nauseous. Quentin wakes up in the banner where the place is dark and the lights don't work. He hears noises all around and grabs his flashlight to investigate and then looks under the bed and finds Mr. Peterson waiting there like a sneaky little cat, and he rapidly crawls towards him and gives him a jump scare, which likely knocks Quentin out. But Quentin would wake up in the banner again, meaning that it could have been a nightmare. Sometimes in these situations, it was hard for Quentin to tell what was real and what was just inside of his head. Quentin would look on the camera footage and see Gerda the baker. He would go to her area and find that the place was locked down with locks and puzzles. He would get inside and solve all of the puzzles only to grab one of the keys and leave the area. The key that he grabbed would be crucial for getting inside the museum. Quentin would then enter the museum and find Mr. Peterson, who is now living in the area. He would find paintings of people and wearing black feathers and crow masks on the pictures. Maybe plague doctors. It could be a depiction of the nightmare world in Ravenclaw, or more likely the guest, who has a black crow-like design. Quentin would find the key to the bedroom and would find Mr. Peterson a family photo of him and his son. That would throw him into a nightmare where he finds himself taking a picture of Mr. Peterson and Aaron, who are together, with Aaron smiling and the picture deceptively pretending that everything is okay. But Quentin would look down to see a jumbled up "help me" message on Aaron's shirt before Aaron would start crying and Mr. Peterson would drag him back inside the house. Quentin wakes up in the banner again and looks at the security cameras to see Mr. Otto, who is the local taxidermist of Ravenbrooks, over in his yard burying something. Quentin would go there and find another key to the museum. He would go inside the museum and unlock the safe to find his stolen camera waiting for him. He would take the camera but accidentally flash it, which would send him into a nightmare of apparently where Ravenbrooks had changed the currency from money into golden coins with apples. He would see dozens upon dozens, hundreds upon hundreds of these golden coins falling from nowhere, but then would look up to see a raven figure flying directly at him. It would be then that Quentin would wake up once again. Quentin is notorious for being knocked out and then waking up again, being sent into nightmares, and then rinse and repeat. Quentin would wake up and look on the camera to see a wheel in the yard of the mayor of Ravenbrooks, who is turning the wheel. Quentin would go into the yard and turn the wheel the right way along with some puzzle solving, and then would get the final key to the museum. He would return to the museum once again the next night and solve all the puzzles, which would finally open an attic. Instead, where the attic should have been, he finds a jail cell containing Aaron. Aaron looks just like how you'd expect someone inside a jail cell all the time would look. Fragile, small, malnourished, and weak. Probably a little too small too. Aaron is initially scared of Quentin before Quentin shows the paper where Aaron asks for help, which earns Aaron's trust. But of course, Mr. Peterson is not going to let the two of them leave that easily. Mr. Peterson would grab Quentin by the neck and lift him in the air while Quentin motions for Aaron to run. Mr. Peterson would then throw Quentin into a cell and lock the door shut with a reverse lock combination. Quentin easily solves the lock and escapes to find Mr. Peterson aggressively chasing him around, not to let him leave. But he is able to open the door to the museum where the exit is, and both him and Aaron can be scot-free. The two of them are just about to leave. But alas! Just as they think they are about to be safe, Mr. Peterson comes thundering down the steps with furious determination, lunging at Quentin and his son Aaron, but trips, and the crow statue falls on Mr. Peterson and crushes him with weight. Despite all that has happened, Aaron is horrified and rushes to help his father. Ah, the inseparable love, bond, and loyalty between a father and son. Just as Quentin is trying to get Aaron to escape, he is dragged away by the guest and once again slips away from consciousness as Mr. Peterson gives Quentin one final glare. And that just about does it for the Hello Neighbor game timeline, a game of love, betrayal, trauma, puzzles, codes, keys, locks, and paranoia. Of course, Hello Neighbor is not done yet, as I believe future games are coming out to continue the storyline, plus we have Secret Neighbor and even an animated series out. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below, as well as any other theories you may have. And thanks for checking out today's theory. See you next time.